Hello everybody, you're welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. They were the pioneers, the rebels, innovators, and the groundbreaking champions of reggae music in Britain. Though Jamaica is the birthplace of reggae, the UK was the second home of that genre since Millie Small burst into the top of the charts in the 1960s. The UK served as the launch pad for reggae to spread to the four corners of the globe. Britain has since produced its own good share of indigenous reggae bands that have over time shown that they can bring it just as hot as their Jamaican counterparts. In today's video, we are counting down our picks for the top 7 British reggae acts of all time, and for this list, we have identified 7 artists and groups and selected them based on a combination of originality, their lyrical content, consistency, and musical compositions, as well as the timeless value of their music, popularity, and production quality. So let's go. Number 7, The Specials. This group from Coventry were the kings of two-tone, a British variation of reggae music that got its name from a record label formed by the founding member of the Specials named Jerry Dammers. Jerry was the son of an Anglican reverend and grew up listening to rock as a young boy, but began to fall in love with reggae music by the early 1970s. His love for reggae was the byproduct of the impact of the Windrush generation. Jamaican immigrants in Coventry held sound system events and parties regularly, and their music often played loudly into the night. Jerry was smitten by the sound, and by the age of 15, he was playing drums with his first reggae band. In 1977, he formed a band called The Automatics, which later became known as The Specials. Their focus was 1960s ska and rocksteady. The band dressed in 1960s mod-style rude boy outfits of hats, fitted suits, and loafers. They released their self-titled album in 1979, and the lead track, Too Much Too Young, went to number 1 on the UK singles charts. While the instrumentals were always upbeat and catchy, their lyrics were focused on social issues, like the 1981 song Ghost Town, which became among the biggest songs of the year and also went to number 1 on the charts. The group had 7 consecutive singles fire up into the charts between 1979 and 1981 before splitting up. The band reformed in 1993 and have been together ever since. Tragically, the group lost the lead singer Terry Hall, who passed away in December 2022. Number 6, The Cimarons. This gifted ensemble of master instrumentalists and vocalists is the only act in this list that wasn't born in the UK. It was made up of Franklin Dunn, Carl Levy, Loxley Gitchie, Maurice Ellis, and Winston Reid. They were born in Jamaica but migrated to England in 1967. They had been mainly session musicians back home and had backed up many artists including Jimmy Cliff. An amazingly gifted group, they were technically the first UK reggae band. They were signed to Trojan Records UK, which released their 1974 album In Time. Their next album was released in 1978 under Polydor Records. They released 3 more albums. The last one, titled On the Rock, hit the streets in 1983. In terms of commercial success, they weren't the biggest, but they were a gifted and groundbreaking group that inspired other British bands to follow their brilliant lead, placing them among the legends of British reggae. Number 5, Maxi Priest. Born Maxwell Alfred Elliott in Lewisham, South London on the 10th of June 1961. His life in music began with his mother, who sang in the church choir. He started out as a construction worker and then a carpenter, building loudspeakers for legendary London sound system Saxon International. He eventually got the chance to stand behind the microphone and quickly became one of Saxon in-house DJs and helped to make that outfit London's #1 sound system, along with other eventual great singers like Smiley Culture, Tipper Irie, and Pato Banton. He began to record in the early 1980s and released his debut album, You're Safe, in 1985, followed by Intentions in 1986. His first 2 albums were excellent, but he really hit the big time when his third album, titled Maxi, came out in 1987. It had the track Wild World, which went up to number 1 on the UK charts, as well as the excellent How Can We Ease the Pain, featuring Jamaican legend Beres Hammond. He was already among the biggest reggae artists in the UK when his next album, Bonafide, came out in 1990 and placed him among the biggest acts in the UK across all genres. With songs like the sublime Just a Little Bit Longer and the smash hit Close to You, He made history as one of just 2 UK artists to have a US Billboard number 1. Number 4. UB40. This group emerged from Birmingham, where a large number of other great UK bands also come from. The band was formed in 1978 and went on to become among the most successful and recognizable UK reggae bands ever, with worldwide record sales of more than 70 million records and a staggering 50 songs in the UK singles charts. They are among the most commercially successful reggae bands in the world ever. Their 1983 album, Labour of Love, and 1993's Promises and Lies both reached number 1 on the UK albums charts. They are also one of 2 UK bands that held the record for spending 214 weeks on the UK singles charts in the 1980s. They named the band after an unemployment benefit form and began as friends who knew each other from various schools around Birmingham. The band first comprised of Ali Campbell, Jimmy Brown, and El Falconer. They played their first gig at a pub in 1979, and by 1980 they had released their first single titled King, which went up to number 4 on the UK singles charts. This breakout single was soon followed by their debut album Signing Off, which came out in August 1980, and by October it had entered the UK album charts and stayed there for a whopping 71 weeks, eventually going platinum. They went on to an incredible successful career and were nominated for 4 Grammy Awards before the band split into 2 in 2008. Number 3. Matumbi. This magnificent band was formed in South London in 1971 by Tex Dixon, Dennis Bovell, Newton Jones, Errol Pottinger, Newton Blake, Bevan Fagan, and Nicholas Bailey. They would emerge as one of the leading lights of the UK reggae scene. They named the group after a tribe native to southern Tanzania. They started out as a backing band for visiting Jamaican artists, and they were so good that when they performed as an opening act for the Wailers in 1973, they outshined the Jamaican superstars and were hailed as the best act of the evening. After releasing some singles on independent labels, including their own Matumbi music label, they signed to Trojan Records in 1976 and released 2 monster singles in After Tonight and Man in Me, with the latter ending as the biggest single of the year. But just as the band seemed to be on the verge of huge commercial success, internal problems and strife saw 2 members leave the band. They released their debut album in 1978, which was a mild hit, but their second album, Point of View, which came out in 1979, became a huge commercial success. The band released 3 more albums before finally splitting up in 1982. Number 2. Aswad. In terms of popularity, longevity, and the ability to adapt to evolving times, no other British group even comes close to Aswad. They got their name from the Arabic word for black and were formed in London in 1975. They were signed to Island Records in 1976 and released their self-titled debut album in the same year. They were an unbelievably tight band and were unrivaled instrumentalists. They were deemed tight enough to be the backing band for Burning Spear during his first British tour in 1977. They started out as a hardcore roots reggae band, but would achieve major commercial success due to their versatility when they released their 1988 album Distant Thunder that had the track Don't Turn Around, that went up to number 1 on the UK singles charts. They would replicate their successes on subsequent releases that lean more towards lovers rock and dancehall. Their 1994 album Rise and Shine contained the top 5 hit single Shine and earned the band their first Grammy nomination for Best Reggae Album. And coming in at number 1 is Steel Pulse, undoubtedly the baddest, most accomplished and tightest reggae band to come out of the UK. Also from Birmingham, this group smashed many records and glass ceilings, especially the notion that British bands couldn't stand toe-to-toe with the best from Jamaica. They started out playing gigs around Handsworth, Birmingham, and saved money to record their first single. Over time, their music began to gain followers, and they eventually got the chance to be the opening act for the Burning Spear during his UK tour in 1977. They were soon after signed to Island Records and released their debut album, Handsworth Revolution, which flew up to number 9 on the UK albums charts in just a few days and sold 250,000 copies. They were chosen to be the opening act for Bob Marley and the Wailers during the European leg of the Kaya album tour in 1978 and basically stole the show. They made a huge name for themselves and wowed Bob Marley himself, who named Steel Pulse as his favorite reggae band. They earned the credibility that was normally reserved for Jamaican bands, and were the first British reggae group to perform at the annual Reggae Sunsplash. They released classic albums like True Democracy, Earth Crisis, and Babylon the Bandit, which won the first Grammy for Best Reggae Album in 1986. They bagged 4 more Grammy nominations over the years, the most recent being 2019's Mass Manipulation. They also made history as the first reggae band to perform at the inauguration of a US president, when they played at Bill Clinton's inauguration in 1992. So there you have it. Do let us know what you think about this list in the comment section below. So please like this video, subscribe, and until next time, Jah bless.